This fall marks the third time I've curated exhibitions from Cheech's collection. People often ask, how do you get to work with Cheech and why is he exhibiting in Mesa? I first met Cheech in July of 2006 when he was the keynote speaker at the Southwest Arts Conference in Phoenix. The blockbuster exhibition, Chicano Visions, American Painters on the Verge, that had been traveling all over the world and featured works from Cheech's collection, was scheduled to end in 2007. Thinking MCA Museum might be able to host a tiny fraction of Chicano Visions, I called Bob Booker, director of the Arizona Commission on the Arts, and asked if he would introduce me to Cheech. He said he was having a small party at his house after the conference, and I was welcome to come. When I arrived, the place was packed. I saw Cheech, and he was stuck in the doorway between the dining room and a hallway. And there was a constant flow of people going up and introducing themselves and talking to him. Well, I'm not great at walking up to people I don't know and starting a conversation, so I hung back and was kind of waiting for my chance to kind of sneak in there. Yeah, right, what was I thinking? It's Cheech, for gosh sakes. Everyone wanted to talk to him. After what was probably close to an hour, I mustered up my energy and I elbowed my way in and I introduced myself. I made my proposal and Cheech thought for a minute and said, I've been collecting works on paper. I think that'd make a great exhibition. This was the start of a great partnership and friendship, and that's why he's here with us tonight in Mesa. It is my pleasure to introduce tonight's moderator for MAC Talk, the director of the Arizona Commission on the Arts, and the person responsible for me meeting Cheech, Bob Booker, and our guest of honor, Cheech Marin.
Here he is, Cheech Marin.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome, welcome. This should be fun.
It's great to have you all here tonight. I'm going to start off with just a little bit of an introduction of Cheech, some things that you may not know. He's a musician, a comedian, a writer, an actor, a director, and has built the finest private collection of Chicano art in America. We met back in 2004 at an opening of his large show at the Wiseman Art Museum in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was a great opening, sponsored by Target, I think, in the good old days when there was a buffet and open bar. I was drinking something blue, and Cheech was talking to some folks outside the door, and I walked up and introduced myself. Later on that night, he ended up fronting the band as their main singer, so it was quite a party. It's important to... Cheech was our keynote speaker, as our friend said, Patty said, and his generosity of spirit, knowledge of art, and humor was treasured by all the folks that heard him speak, and I think you'll feel the same tonight. 2001 to 2007, Chicano Visions, American Painters on the Verge, built from his personal collection, made a 12-city tour across American museums across the United States, and it was truly a blockbuster that really introduced many Americans to the Chicano art movement, to those individual artists and the incredible work that they had been creating. Another book that he wrote and published about his collection, Chiquinitas, Small Paintings from the Cheech Marin Collection, Size Doesn't Matter, came out last September. The book contains images of 7 little paintings by 27 Chicano artists. I just want to start this with a quote from Cheech. He said about the book, "Small paintings whisper to you. They tell a secret to you and you only. They imprint upon the soft clay of your memory, and you carry them around forever. You almost see them in the dark. One day I learned that size doesn't matter. It's what's inside the frame that counts." So I'd like to just welcome Cheech once again. You know, we're sitting there with a guy that has spent a good part of his career in Hollywood. He has under his belt at least 115 films and TV experiences as a director, an actor, or a writer. And so we should get the Hollywood stuff right out of the way at the beginning. So Cheech, can you tell us a little bit about your favorite film that you wrote or worked in or produced, and a little bit about the stories that you remember from that experience?
Well, I think anybody that's in the film industry, they're great at their favorite movie is the first one. It's like making love for the first time. May not always be the best, but it's always the first. And our first film was Up in Smoke, and I knew that Cheech and Chong could come out and make the first movie, and it could be run backwards with Japanese subtitles, and we're going to get an audience. Because I knew the size of the audience, because I had been looking at them all across the footlights for years and years. I didn't really know how much that film would connect, not only to American audiences, but to audiences worldwide. And it has become a classic. I still get a big royalty check from it, like, okay. I wish I wasn't married at the time, but, yeah, it's okay. But, every story everything that happened on that film was it was magical because it was our first one and we didn't know what we were doing, Before the film came out, we were on the Paramount lot, and our producer, Lou Adler, was showing the film to a couple influential people. And this day, he'd been showing it to Pauline Kael, who was the New Yorker chief reviewer, and Warren Beatty, who was a friend. And so they screened the film. And Tommy and I were walking on the lot, and Warren Beatty drives by and pulls up, and he stops, rolls down his window. He says, "I just saw your film." He says, "You guys don't even know what you did." Okay. Thank you, Warren, and you're not as dumb as you look either, like. But we did know what we were doing, we actually did know. We did it in the simplest, most direct manner that we could, and we set up a camera, and we were funny in front of it, and that's all, and that has endured.
Thanks. That is a great story. We'll move on to the collection and the show. The show opens tomorrow. I saw it today. It's a brilliant collection of artists' work from around the country. And then there's a special gallery devoted to local Arizona artists, which is also very, very cool.
Very good.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the beginnings of the Chicano art movement? Where it sort of came from, what it came out of, and what I really like is where it continues to go.
Yeah, keeps evolving, just like Chicanos keep evolving, And Chicano is an evolutionary term. It takes whatever generation comes in, and it's a juncture between traditional American and traditional Mexican and American pop. And where those two join together, they form this third thing that is quintessentially American. And it started, the Chicano art movement started in the late 60s as the visual arm of the Chicano civil rights movement, led by Luis Valdez and Cesar Chavez and all those guys. And here at Farm. And as such, it was very highly political when it was first reared its head, and it was protesting the conditions and the substandard schooling and housing and jobs and everything that they were talking about, and so the art reflected that. There was, you couldn't have a Chicano art piece without some kind of sacred bleeding heart wrapped in barbed wire, and a fist and so. But it evolved as the artists evolved. After we went through the kind of political phase, each individual artist started forming their own artistic vision. And they were very different from each other. They were united under a very political banner. But they defined what it was to be Chicano from a myriad of different viewpoints, whether it was religious or historical or sociological or gender-based or humorous or abstract. And when you put all these pieces together, you get this big Chicano pie. And do Chicanos have pies?
Chicano pie. Yeah, Chicano pie.
Chicanos eat pies. I don't know. But better stop there. But you know, it's like everybody was expecting a history lesson. Well, this is the history of the Chicano. No, it's all these pieces form together to form the sabor, the flavor of what it is to be Chicano, what it is to see the world through Chicano eyes, and what it feels like, what it tastes like, what it smells like. And through these paintings putting together, you kind of get, oh, this is the world, you know, because nobody had an idea. They kind of maybe heard about Chicano art, but I've had this happen a bunch of times when people come up and tell me after they've seen the show, it's like, I didn't know what Chicano art was, and but I like it. Well, okay. So nobody took a lesson from that. I go, well, you can't love or hate Chicano art unless you see it. So it has been my mission to let everybody, as much as I can, see it wherever I go, and then you can form your own opinion. But these are among the greatest painters that we have in the world today, and they're gathered under this banner of Chicano art.
Thanks. Thank you. Yes. We were talking at dinner last night about collecting art, which I know a lot of folks in the audience do as well. And I call Cheech a hunter because he collects not only, he goes to the major art shows, Art Chicago, the show in Miami, he goes to galleries, he goes to museums, he goes to artist studios, he goes to friends of artists, friends of studios, and that's how he's built his collection, which I think is very incredible. And unlike many people that are at the level of collectors that Mr. Martin is at, some folks, I think, build collections that they don't even know what they have in the end, or they're not so sure about that. But you will see the show tomorrow that every one of these works has a uniqueness, a character, and a connection to the working artist, which I think is very incredible. Let's start with some artwork. You want to start with taking the first look at Mr.
Okay,
Hernandez?
we have, what they've asked me to do is put together 10 pivotal paintings from the collection that I think they're really, really important and kind of form the original direction and of the Chicano art school. So I'd like to show these 10 to you right now. And let's go back to that one. Can we go back to that one? No, we can't. Okay. Oh, yeah, we can go. This is the Mona Lisa of Cheech. All right, let's go on to the next one. You get the picture. All right, this one. We start with the most gentle one first. This is a picture by Adan Hernandez from San Antonio, Texas, and he's the most vato of all the Chicano painters. Comes from el medio, the middle, el medio del barrio, the west side of San Antonio, and which is it's a tough place. And he started forming this school called Chicano Noir. It all takes place at night, and there's always turmoil in his painting, and then it reflects an alienation, and there's always motion. The wind is going, the rain is going, and it projects a real kind of dark part of the anguished, not dark, but anguished part of the soul. This particular painting is called Luca in the Rain. Luca, for those that don't know, it's like a chick or a babe or one of those kind of designations. But you see this. I saw this. One of the criteria I have for collecting individual paintings is the paintings have to haunt me. And they do. If I see the painting, I go away and I dream about it, and I think about it during the day, and I come back and look at it again, and and that keeps haunting. So I know I'm supposed to acquire that. This particular one it was a small painting, and I saw it in a dealer's shop, and I said, I thought about it. I better go back and get that the next day. It'll be gone. And sure enough, it was gone. And so I called Adan and I said, can you make me a bigger one of those, a big Luca? And he goes, sure. But this, I mean, look at it. I call it the Chicano Scream. You know that painting, the scream. Ah! it's a quintessential painting of its time, but this is the Chicano Scream. It's this stripper running down the street, almost naked in San Antonio on the west side. But the elongation of her legs and the musculature of her legs, and this is like, this woman, you know, and there's something after her, or something that's propelled her down the street, right in the middle of this needling rain, you know, that's just picking up, and it's always Lerma's, you know, nightclub, and it's in that neighborhood, and it's just that it projects the anguish of that neighborhood that he lived in. And this one's called Luca in the Rain. He always uses the very same palette, and that's his palette, the Chicano Noir palette. And this is by Adan Hernandez. It's called Luca in the Rain. It's one of my favorite paintings. This is another, I love this painting. This one's called Chino Latino. And it's by Chas Bojorquez, who is the father of graffiti art. It started with Chas Bojorquez in Los Angeles, and it has blossomed into the biggest art movement in the world today, street art. It goes all around the world. The artists go from El Paso to Berlin to Tokyo to Bratislava and then back to El Paso. That's how the world is connected now. And this particular one that Chaz, are you here tonight? Can you stand up and take a bow? Get a little bit of light on him. Chas Bojorquez is a great artist, and he started this graffiti art as a way. Graffiti art started as a way of marking territory. This is my territory, this is my neighborhood. Don't come in here unless you are one of us. This represents a clash between two neighborhoods in Los Angeles, so the edges of Chinatown, the edges of East LA coming together, Chino Latino. But it wouldn't have been possible if Chas was not knowledgeable about calligraphy and Chinese art, as well as street art and graffiti art that were represented by the Chicano community. And the way they come together, if you look at this painting, the way they come together, they're indistinguishable. You know, this is a perfect painting. It just has no weak parts or soft parts, and you have to work to see it. And it represents how inextricably those neighborhoods and those peoples are bound together because they grow up together. And if it's, you could look in any kind of medical books and see kind of growths like this they're so intricately bound together that they become one. And I think that's the purpose, to have this neighborhood be Chino Latino, and that's its own product and that's its own identity, and it still exists in Los Angeles. This is by Chas Bojorquez. This painting. Oh, Frank Romero. Frank Romero was part of Los Four, which was the first original Chicano collective. It was Carlos Almaraz, Frank Romero, Magoo, and Beto de la Rocha. And they decided, Carlos mainly decided that we were doing something unique, this Chicano art thing. And it's formed by an intelligence and by a vision and by a practicality, the ability to make the paintings. We have our own vision of what we see, and we're not being told what to paint. And so they all painted together in the group and each individual separately. This is Frank Romero's kind of LA landscape, and it's sophisticated and primitive and childlike simultaneously. All the images that he grew up with. In the center, we have the City Hall, which is a Mayan building, plus with the freeway that comes and bisects their neighborhoods, trucks, which he has a fascination for, LA car culture, plains, and orange groves that dotted the landscape and gave way to the city. But it's innocent and pink. This is called Pink Landscape. You know, how many major paintings have you seen that are pink? You know, like it just doesn't happen. But Frank has been prolific throughout his long career, and he now lives half of this year in France, and half the year in Los Angeles. But he keeps painting right up until this day, and he's one of our great painters. His name's Frank Romero. This is a painting this is actually a print by Gronk. That's his name, Gronk. Es todo. And he was the second in the second group, Chicano collective called ASCO. And ASCO means nausea, you know. And because they would put up, the group would come in and put up their artwork, and the people, hey, estos pinturas me da asco, man, they make me nauseous. And they go, good, that's what we want. You know, there was this little punk mentality, man. Oh yeah, well, how about this, you know? And I love that in there because they came in, they were the first Chicanos kind of to venture out into Hollywood and go to those clubs, the punk clubs, and have that be part of their community. But this is a very sophisticated piece, you know. It's these people having cocktails on board a ocean liner. You know, and it looks very sophisticated. They're very sophisticated dress, and what is very sophisticated though in this piece is the background. And Gron kept working on that background throughout his career until after a while the background overtook the foreground, and he eliminated figures entirely. And now his art consists mainly of those drawings in the background, and they're fantastic, and he keeps developing him. But I like the figure era when he had all these figures, and they're ironic, and they're edgy, and they look at you, and there's just this little asco in there, you know. But Gronk, he still continues to paint, and he's very good. He's going to be remembered for a long time. Gronk, this is a Lifeboat. Johnny. John Valadez. I don't think he's here tonight. He's going to be here tomorrow, so look for him. I'll tell him to wear a sign so you know who he is. This is called Convertible Operas, and the hallmark of John's paintings is there's always some kind of conflict going, as well as perfectly rendered clouds and or water and or reflections, and there's some conflict, sex and conflict going on in his paintings all the time. This particular painting, last summer, Los Angeles and Bordeaux, France are sister cities, and they've been sister cities for 50 years. And so they were celebrating the 50th anniversary of that, so they had this big festival in Bordeaux, and they wanted to have all this LA represented by some faction of the art community, and so they came over and they somehow got turned on to the collection, and they decided that the collection would represent LA. And so it was a big Chicano fest in Bordeaux, France. And every museum in Bordeaux during that summer had there was an ASCO show, there was early Chicano civil rights paintings, there was stuff from my collection, and it was a big Chicano fest in Bordeaux. But they came over and they saw this painting in John's studio, and they wanted him to create a mural of this in Bordeaux, which he did on site. But to make it French, he added a middle panel. There's a middle panel in there that you don't see in this one, with a deux chevaux car. I don't know if anybody's seen those. It means 2 horsepower, and there's a couple in there fighting or kissing or whatever they're doing, but there's always this conflict going on. But he's just a magnificent painter. I mean, if you look at the reflections in those cars, and it's too bad there's not a lot of water, and because he does water better than anybody else. But the sky is, and he's a photorealist that most of the time works in pastel. Being a photorealist in pastel is like dancing backwards in high heels if you're a guy, you know. It's very hard to do because it's a blunt instrument. But this one, I was standing. He finally got the mural done, and it was up in front of the museum. And I said, John, that bottle flying through the air, is that a Molotov cocktail or a beer? And he goes, I don't know. What do you think? Therein lies the quintessence of the art experience. It doesn't matter. It's what you think. Because you don't need somebody to interpret it for you. You interpret it for yourself. And this is John Valadez. Leo Limon. Is Leo here tonight? He'll be here later. Huh? ¿A dónde? You're up there? Stand up and take a bow, Leo. Don't fall over. Leo Limon. Leo Limon is the heart and soul of the community, man. He just, his view is to express the roots of that community and the people in that community and the things that they're involved in, whether it's the LA River Project or games that they do. But he always, it's very heartfelt of his paintings. And this one, this particular painting, Más Juegos, More Games, it was originally a pastel, and I saw it and I bought it from, it's about this big. And then I was going to do this Chicano Visions tour, and I really loved this image. And so I asked Leo, can you make me a big one of these? Yeah, okay.
Second time.
all the painters go, yeah, I think so. It costs more money in your arm, right? But I love all the elements in this painting. It has typically Leo has a lot of these tic-tac-toe symbols in it, which stand in for the game of life because it's ongoing. And there's always a lot of Aztec symbols in it, the sandaled feet of the dancers and the curlicue of the caracol of the speaking element. But also this is a big blue Vedic hand from Indian art, I think, and it has that cobalt blue. And then the symbols on the houses, the antennas. It's the dollar sign, the anarchy sign, and the what is that? The symbol of the hammer and sickle, the Russian thing. But this person laying on the couch with orange hair, smoking a cigarette with a sleeping cat, and it is more games, and it's a dream, or I don't know, but it issues out of the mind of that person in the thing. But it's so colorful. You'll see it in the thing. It's a big painting that his family didn't want him to give it to me after he painted it. No, that's not how it works, Leo. It'll go on the road and it'll have a good time. This is Más Juegos by Leo Limon. Leshness. Margaret Garcia. This is a painting by Margaret Garcia called Jasmine at 39, or Janine. Janine at 39. I have a daughter named Jasmine. Janine at 39, mother of twins. Is Margaret here tonight? Yes. Where are you, honey? Stand up. Margaret Garcia. Turn around, say hello. There you go. This is one that I didn't really have to be haunted by. This is the most lush painting. It's like, it conjures up Gauguin and Tahiti, but it's set in the middle of a nopal cactus and agave cactus. And when you see this agave cactus in life, it's just the bluest blue. This is lushness. I mean, this is fecundity at its core. This woman laying back in the thing, and we went on the tour with the Chicano Visions tour, and went over 12 different cities over 7 years. This was voted the best painting in the show, the most liked painting by all the people who came. And I can see why. Sex sells. Yeah. This is Janine at 39, mother of twins, by Margaret Garcia, right in front of me. Huh? No, I didn't ask. It was big enough, That's all I could handle, This is, God, I love this painting. This is by Patsy Valdez. I know she's not here tonight, but this painting is doing the mambo, man. It's like there's so much motion in this painting, and you're like, what is it? It's called Room on the Verge. And there was a film by a Spanish director, Almodovar, and it was called Woman on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown. And when he made this painting, it became a worldwide sensation, and that phrase leapt into the lexicon all over. Everything was on the verge, something on the verge, and you knew exactly what he meant. And when Patsy came out with this painting, Room on the Verge, because she basically painted in her room, painted stuff that went on in her room, and it was the stand-up, or the metaphor for her spiritual, emotional, religious, whatever state that she was going through in the time, and it was mostly turmoilish. And so you see in the windows these jagged peaks and this almost like hellish landscape. But this room is in motion, man. There's like these scarves coming out of the drawers, and that green carpet is like, stop. But the thing that it cracks me up is these dancing brooms, and it's pure Disney. That is right out of The Sorcerer's Apprentice from Fantasia, because Chicano children were children of Hollywood. They lived in close proximity, and they saw all the movies that everybody else did, and were influenced equally by them as was everybody else. But the colors in the stain, those oranges and the green, is like this painting doesn't sit still, and it just keeps on going and going. Yeah, I can look at it a million times and still be entertained. This is Room on the Verge by Patsy Valdez. Roberto Gutierrez, he was the guy that was hiding in plain sight. I knew that there had to be an urban folklorist that was kind of documenting what went on in the barrio in East LA. Just like there was painters that in the French Impressionist movement that painted Montmartre, and as soon as they painted them, they painted the Moulin Rouge or the neighborhoods in there, the little alleys, the Pigalle, and you looked at them once you knew what those paintings were, you saw them, and you knew exactly. And everybody wanted to go there when they went to visit Paris. I want to go to Montmartre and see all this. I knew there was somebody in Los Angeles that was doing that to our neighborhoods. And his name was Roberto Gutierrez. And he had been hiding in plain sight there at what's the Casa de la Raza? No, Plaza de la Raza, excuse me. I'm at that age now, I don't remember shit, you know? Like, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. It's called CRS, can't remember shit. And I know it's there, you know, but it's a little foggy, you know? It's a Plaza. But he'd been working there all the time. And this is a view top from City Terrace. And if you've ever been anybody who's ever been in that neighborhood, and anybody who's ever been, will immediately recognize it again. And he paints that neighborhood over and over and over again. And they're just wonderful. I mean, this is as good as anything any French Impressionist ever did of his neighborhood. It's called City Terrace by Roberto Gutierrez. This painting. Wayne Healy. Wayne, are you here tonight? Yeah. Where are you? Stand up. Stand up. Please. Wayne Healy. One of the first painters I ever bought his paintings, and Wayne's paintings leapt off the wall at me, and they were just like vibrant and neon and alive, and they have a peculiar geometry in them. This is his view of the scaffolding as he's doing a mural right in the center of the geographic center of East LA. Cesar Chavez and Soto, and Soto, and that's the geographic center. But the angle is skewed like that, but it makes perfect sense, and all these points converging like that, and then this is way over here on the scaffolding, and the guy below, hey, why am I not in the picture? And all these cars going by, and the paleteros, and the musicians, and it's just, but he developed this technique that I always describe as Norman Rockwell meets Jackson Pollock. Because it very homey kind of scenes of the neighborhood and or the family or backyard barbecues. But after he finishes the main image, he takes paint in a squirt bottle, like a ketchup bottle or mustard bottle, and fills it and stands over it and just like action paintings, just like Jackson Pollock did. And you have to be extremely good to do that because you can't go back. There's no erasing it and going, I'll try it this way. No, it's there, and that's coming straight out of the inspiration of his soul, And when you see this painting, you'll see it in live. That's great. Always see paintings live. Always go to the museum and see paintings. It's a total different experience. Yeah. Than seeing them in books. Always do that. And so when you see that, it's it does that. That's the most academic term I can. Okay. Because that's what painting should do to you. That's what art should do to you. They go, ooh, wow. That's always been my reaction to a painting I really love. Wow. But that wow is informed by a lot of stuff. It's informed by years and years of studying art and seeing all kinds of examples of art and the way that the mystery of how they come together in some form that like you can't figure it out right away, but you know exactly what it is. And that's the mystery and that's the beauty of art. And that's the beauty of these 10 paintings that we've shown you.
Incredible. I've had the pleasure of seeing these in person, and some of them are huge.
Yeah, they're huge.
And what makes the exhibit so exciting is that there is the piece that's in Cheech's collection, and then there's another piece by the same artist, and then that artist chose another artist to show. So you'll see the work displayed with sort of a second piece, and then the third piece is from another artist that they've brought into the exhibition as well. And it's an incredible collection of what's happening right now and what's been happening.
Yeah. And that was a great idea from Patty that she came to me and said she wanted to do this concept where the painters would choose another artist that they admire that was up and coming. So you'll see that continuum, and they don't have to necessarily be Chicanos. They're just because the definition of what Chicano is and isn't is really expanding right now. It has overflowed its banks because it's so omnipresent in every neighborhood. There's the thing about the Latino diaspora in this country is that it's in every state simultaneously. I mean, it's not confined to the Southwest and West anymore. You can go to New Hampshire, big Latino communities. The Mexicans are the #1 Latinos in New York City right now by head count. You can go to Ohio, Pennsylvania, Alaska, Hawaii has a giant Chicano population. And they're all going to have 100 kids at the same time. So these are pictures of the coming reality, And I when I talk to audiences such as you, I always say that you are the mainstream. You are the mainstream of America right now, so get used to that idea and behave like you are the mainstream, and have the confidence of being the mainstream, because you are, and you're going to determine which way this country is going to go. So it's up to you. And these are just the pictures of what's possible. Do we have questions?
Let's take some questions.
Let's take some questions.
We'll turn the lights up a little bit, and I'll take a call on folks. So there's 4 microphones, one here, 2 in the back.
So anybody's got a question, walk over that microphone. If you're not wanted in 3 states, We know somebody's got a question. Who's it?
Let's see.
Was it? Okay, here we go.
Here we go. We have
Come on over. You can probably shout it out.
Great. Right
There
on
you
the
go.
microphone,
Okay.
too.
Get your questions ready and get to the microphones. Yes, ma'am.
Where did your love of art start? I mean, to be a collector, it had to start somewhere. Was it in your childhood, someone in your family that painted? Where did it start?
It was in my childhood. I had this group of cousins that I was part of, and we were kind of anomalies. We were like blue collar, working class Chicano kids. My dad was a policeman. My other uncles were upholsterers, but we were smart, and we were determined to get educated, you know. And so we would gather together, and Louis, the oldest cousin, would assign us topics or areas to go and learn about and bring back to the group. Some got history, some got sports, some got news. Is that you?
Nope, we're good.
Okay. And for some reason, I got art. And okay, so I went to the library. And I was like 11 was when I first went. I went to the library in the town I was at and took out all the art books and looked at them. Okay, what is that?
It's not me.
Yeah.
No.
Somebody's ringing a bell. It's... Yeah. Oh, good, I'm not crazy.
Okay, good.
Yeah. That's your phone, dude.
It's not my phone. Oh, what? It was my phone. It's telling me that we can take questions now.
Okay.
But I thought it was going to do it quietly.
So we're right on track.
We're right on track.
Good.
We're good.
Yeah, all right. So, anyways, I thought it was time for me to take my pills or something.
Yeah.
So I'd go to the library and, okay, well, all right, that's Rembrandt. Oh, that's kind of cool. Or that's Miro, or that's Chagall, or Picasso. So I learned that way in a very kind of academic sense. So I had a pretty good classical education in painting. Painting is what I always looked at. Because every museum has paintings. Every museum has paintings. And there's vogue to come, oh, the painting's dead, and blah, 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 and we only do performance. And yeah, great. But I go in the museum and there's nothing but paintings, you know. So that vogue will go back and forth, but painting will always endure because it's the most direct form of artistic communication, you know. And involves the most primitive tools, hair on a stick, you know. And the inspiration comes right from the middle of your soul down through your arm and out to the hair on the stick, you know. And so it'll always be. There'll be other stuff, and there should be other stuff, I guess. But painting is what everybody does. Great. So I would do this, and that's where I learned about paintings, and that's where it started. Yes, sir.
Jose?
You kind of answered a little bit from what you just said, but do you collect any sculptures?
Yes, I do. I have a few, mostly glass sculptures. You know, because it came out of guys who are artists, the De La Torre brothers, who are painters, and then they started doing sculptures. You'll see a sculpture that they made, and I put in the collection of the Aztec calendar. It's a big piece. It's the diameter is 10 feet, and it's circular, and it's I haven't seen it in 20 years. It really has been storage for. I think the last time I took it out was 20 years ago, and I haven't seen it since then. And so Patty came over and said, well, do you have any other, like, non-paint? Oh, yeah, I got to take them out for an airing, you know. and it's a wonderful piece. These two artists, Einar and Jaime de la Torre, they're from Ensenada. Yeah, you know those guys? All right. They're spectacular. And this piece is just, you love it. It's Chicano Rascuache Rococo, you know? Those three elements together, you know? It's like, okay, I get it, yeah. But there's soul in it, there's rock and roll in it, there's heart in it, you know? So it's a pretty, but I do collect some, mostly sculpture, but it's another field that, you know, that not that there isn't, but my expertise is in this. Yes, sir, ma'am.
Get someone in the back.
Yeah, there you go.
As an artist and a collector, do you see your career as full of like really dramatic turns from comedy to Hollywood to collecting art? Or does that all seem fluid and continuous?
Yeah, no, it's all part of the same thing. You know, what is really interesting is that artists throughout the years, especially Chicano artists and painters and other artists, they've all came up to me and pointed out the artistic elements of Cheech and Chong movies and the sophistication of them, and they're primitive, and they're base, and they're very sophisticated simultaneously. There's many levels to those movies, and you, depending on where you want to focus, or you know, some of them go by very quickly, but that's why they've endured. And so that's kind of been my MO throughout the years. I think I'm working at the top of my game all the time in whatever I'm doing, sophistication-wise. You know, it's not like I try not to make dumb jokes. Sometimes those are the best, but yeah, no, it's all part of the same deal. You know, I don't separate them. You have another question?
How are you doing, sir? It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Andy Limon. How can I get, I don't know if you're interested in seeing what I got. I don't got much, but I can show you a little bit of the art that I got.
Sure.
See if you like it, and I don't know how can I send it to you, or...
Melissa? This woman down here, Melissa, stand up and take a bow. This is my curator, put together. Melissa, I get it to her.
All right.
And I'll take a look at it. You know, and we'll direct you to the website.
By
We'll
the way,
see.
vea la raza y ánimo.
Ándale, gracias. You know, that's the great thing about the digital age is, like, you know, people send me stuff all the time online. They know where to go, and so I can see stuff. And I'm very fortunate that I get to travel all the time, and I get into places where, you know, Corpus Christi, there were some great artists there, but they would never get to New York or LA or Chicago even, you know. So I get to go to them, and then they find me, and that's how this process works. And I've come to the conclusion, after having done this for a lot of years, and I went, well, why am I doing this? I like art, and I like it hung over the couches and in the kitchen, but it's not just for my edification or benefit. And I realized at the end of the day, what I'm doing is collecting this art so that I can share it with you, you know. and that's the most gratifying thing. Because art does no good if it's sitting in a warehouse or a closet or under the bed, or it's like, you want to share that experience of what the joy and the enlightenment that this art brings. And so I've been fortunate enough to be able to do what we're doing tonight all over the country. And so that, I'm glad, I'm really glad, and I'm really privileged to share it with you, because like it's telling a good joke or a good story, you know. You want to tell it to as many people as possible. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am, right here.
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
So I used to think that I collected art, and my artist friends and art collector friends said, no, you don't collect, you just buy art. This is truly, you collect art, and I love that you brought this collection to us, and I appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you.
But do you ever buy art? Do you ever purchase things outside of the Chicano art movement that you like, and if so, what type of art outside of that do you like?
No. Good try, though. I mean, really. I was slick. Okay. No, at the early part when I could act, I was a collector. I've been an inventor collector for my whole life, whether it's bottle tops or marbles or matchbook covers or baseball cards. I always had a mania for collecting the whole set and put them in some kind of order, and I got all of them. And that's always carried over to collecting. And when I first got some money, because it takes money to collect, I started buying Art Nouveau and Art Deco, because it was very much of the age of the hippie spirit, you know, that naturalistic. And so I kept buying that, and that got really expensive. And just at that point is when I discovered the Chicano artists, and I go, I can collect this, and all the masterpieces of Chicano art were still available, you know? I feel like I'm collecting impressionisms impressionist art right now, you know. Like, if you had the chance to buy 20 Monets, would you? At the day for, you know, $1,000 a piece? Of course you would. That's what I'm doing right now, I think. You know, and Chicano art will live on and be lauded long after we're dead. You know, it's not. I'm not. I know it'll turn into something very, very. It's already very valuable, but it'll turn into something very, very valuable that my grandkids or great grandkids will have the benefit. But most of it will go to museums, because the purpose is to share it with you guys, you know, wherever you go. Okay? Yes, ma'am?
Question regarding education. You know, in recent years, so much of art education and art overall has been diminished because of school budget. Is there anything that, any organization that you're involved with, or that could be more of a focus on art education for our schools, so that we begin to continue to produce people who
Well.
appreciate art and to do that.
You know, most of that, that's a good question. Most of that is all in local communities, you know, because it affects those kids that are going into that school right then. And so it's kind of, it really is home rule more than anything else, and more than any other. Pardon? In LA, there are a number of organizations that provide for their neighborhoods, you know, and it keeps reaching out. There's not going to be one big organization that's it's a you know, be all and end all for everybody. It's ironic though, you know, because it's art is the only thing we leave behind is the culture. You know, I don't know of any museums dedicated to the art of the deal. You know, but thousands of years later, we still go see the pyramids and the Mona Lisa and all the other, the Eiffel Tower, other great works of art that draws people from, and to gain sustenance from that. That will always happen, you know, and that's the only thing we leave behind is a culture. It says who we were, what we felt, what we believed in, and where our heart was. And that's, you know, it's ironic that when funding in schools come around, it's the first thing to be cut and the last thing to come back. But it is like grass growing through the cement. It will always grow through the cement. It involves organization on the community level. And that's really where it starts. There are great funds and organizations that, you know, are bigger, but in order to make an impact on young lives, that's where it starts, and that's where you put your efforts in. You know, I became an art collector because I was told that I would never be an artist. I was in second grade, and I would make these drawings, and the teacher came along collecting all everybody. Oh, you'll never be an artist. It's like a dagger into my little Chicano bleeding heart, you know. And I just crawled away in the corner, you know, let that part of my soul die, you know. Like, oh, okay. But I always liked, I always knew that I liked art, you know, and I like this. I'll learn about it, you know. And I still can't draw. I'm so terrible at it. And then in my last semester in college, I discovered pottery. And my Mexican genes came bounding out, man. I was a pottery making fool, boy. I quit all my other classes, quit my job, and just did pottery and moved to Canada and I was an apprentice to a very famous guy and did pottery for the next 3 years. But you have to have that release, you know, that artistic release for everybody. Everybody has that capability and that urge in them. Everybody, no matter who they are. And it's finding that channel and finding that encouragement more than anything else to let that part come out. Because we all are artists, you know. We all are artists. Yes, any other questions?
Okay. Yes, right here, and then I think that's going to be our last one.
Talk about how you got started in music, and what does that bring your life?
Music is. I started out in music. I made my first record when I was 5 years old. I was as this little kid, and I was always the littlest kid. I was always the littlest kid in every class I ever went to. I was this little kid, and I had this little squeaky voice, but I could sing in tune. And so there was a neighbor of ours in South Central where we grew up, and he had this little record label kind of. He just made records. He would make like 20 of them or 50 of them, acetates of different people in the neighborhood that could sing or play guitar. He heard me singing one day, and I made my first record. And it's, Amorcito corazón, yo tengo tentación. It sounded just like that, man. And that was it for me, man. It's show business for me, man. That's it, you know. Everybody, oh, that's so good. Oh, you're so good. Yeah. And so from that time forward, man, I was, music informed my life. I was always a musician. I was always a singer and always a guitar player from about 10. And I still do. I play guitar every day and I sing every day, much to everybody's annoyance. But music, I mean, it's, it soothes the savage beast, I guess. But it's the heart and soul it's the most expressive of all the arts, and it's one that, there again, everybody can do. Some are better than others. Some are better drawers or painters than others. Some are better sculptors than others. But everybody has the ability to do that, and the belief in yourself and the confidence in yourself to do that. It transfers to everything else you do. If you can, all of a sudden you sing a song, oh, that's pretty good, you sound good. That informs the rest of your life, everything in your life, So music is really the center of my life more than even art. And I like that.
Well, tomorrow is a great, huge festival happening all over the grounds. Please come back for that. The exhibition opens to the public tomorrow, and I have to say it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful show. You've been an amazing audience. Cheech, it's an honor to share stage with you.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Please
come
guy.
And see the show. It's really good. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon. Come and see the show. Thank you.